Welcome to WhiskyCast, Cask Strength Conversation, featuring news and interviews from the world of whiskey. I'm Mark Gillespie, and this is episode number 1166 for June 14th, 2026. Coming up in a few minutes,
Adam will be out making sure that we have whiskey from Hawaii and Alaska and New Mexico and places where there aren't that many distilleries that we can pull from, and I'll be probably working on the blending pretty consistently throughout our time. But it's such an exciting project, and it's well worth the amount of work that went into it.
It's National Bourbon Week, and the folks at Lost Lantern Whiskey are taking that seriously. They're releasing the United States of Bourbon, a pair of whiskeys with bourbons from all 50 U.S. states. There's also a 1776 edition with whiskeys from the original 13 states to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. It's an ambitious project, and we'll talk with Lost Lantern's Nora Ganley-Roper and Adam Polonski about it later on WhiskyCast In-Depth. I'll also have the week's tasting notes, behind the label, and much more. The news is next on this week's WhiskyCast, whiskey's longest-running and most awarded podcast series.
Hey friends, it's Gabriel with Jewers here. If you're watching the U.S. Open this year, or you've got Father's Day coming up and you just want to get it right, there's a bottle that I would keep an eye out for. I'll explain.
Let's get started with the news. It's been a light week news-wise, but we do have some headlines to report. Glenfarclas chairman John Grant was honored on King Charles's birthday's honors list this week. He was awarded an OBE, or Officer of the Order of the British Empire, for his contributions to charity and the Scotch whisky industry. Grant told the Press and Journal the honor came as a, quote, complete and total surprise. He joined the family business in 1974, became managing director in 1979, and has led Glenfarclas ever since. Congratulations. It's no secret that the whiskey industry is facing a downturn right now, and the IWSR consulting firm says we're in a substantial rebalancing of the spirits market away from North America, Europe, and China to India, South America, and Africa over the next decade. Alcohol consumption in 2035 is forecast to be 19% lower in China, 18% in the U.S., 15% in Japan, 14% in Germany, and 13% in the U.K. Growth is expected to climb 38% in India, 26% in Colombia, 15% in Vietnam, and 13% in Mexico. However, the rate of decline in consumption of alcoholic beverages is actually slowing down, partially because the population of legal drinking age consumers is growing and is forecast to grow by 9% between now and 2035. That's enough to almost wipe out projected declines in alcohol consumption. One other note, even though global spirits sales volume fell 3% last year, the numbers were high enough to beat wine for the first time since IWSR started keeping track back in 1990. Bruichladdich latest whiskey sold out before the launch event had even concluded. Yellow Submarine 3 was the subject of a launch party at Milroy's of Soho in London the other day, and the 14-year-old Islay single malt was so sold out that guests were given empty gift bags to take home. It's part of the 25th anniversary celebration of Bruichladdich's revival. I did receive a sample this week, and I'll have my tasting notes for it later on. Philadelphia police and federal investigators are looking for suspects in the theft of 1,800 cases of Noble Oak Bourbon from a warehouse last week. The theft occurred in broad daylight. A spokesperson for Noble Oak owner Apogee 21 Holdings called it a coordinated cargo theft operation. Apogee 21 acquired the Noble Oak brand from Edrington in 2024. Elsewhere, Green River Distilling will launch its first Distillery Select bottling this Saturday at the distillery in Owensboro, Kentucky. The 8-year-old bourbon was finished for 6 months in new toasted American oak and is the oldest Green River release to date. It'll go on sale at Green River's Louisville Tasting Room on Whiskey Road June 26th. I have a sample of it. I'll have my tasting notes for it soon at whiskycast.com. Heaven Hill is bringing back its 21-year-old Elijah Craig single-barrel bourbon. It'll be available exclusively starting today at the Heaven Hill Bourbon Experience in Bardstown, with a wider release in select markets later this year. The price tag, $299.99 a bottle. Booker's Bourbon is launching its second release of the year. The milkshake batch gets its name from the bourbon-laced chocolate milkshakes Booker and Fred Noe would get after a day of fishing, a tradition that continues with Fred and Freddie Noe today. The batch was aged for precisely 7 years, 6 months, and 12 days, and is bottled at 62.2% ABV. It carries a recommended retail price of $99.99 a bottle. BenRiach is releasing the 31-year-old Shades of Smoke edition in the U.S. It comes from casks laid down in the spring and summer of 1994, when the distillery ramped up production of a sweeter style of smoky spirit. It's bottled at 48.1% ABV and will retail for $925 a bottle. Isle of Raasay's latest single-cask release highlights the distillery's purifier on the spirit still that can be switched on or off during distillation. In this case, it was switched on, resulting in a 3.4 times distilled spirit. The whiskey was aged for 7 years in an ex-Woodford Reserve rye cask and is bottled at cask strength 59% ABV. It's available for $125 a bottle. Iowa's Cedar Ridge Distillery is releasing its oldest whiskey yet. A 9 3/4 rye uses barrels at least 9 years old, with the majority of them reaching 9 years and 9 months old. The mash bill is 85% rye, 12% corn, and 3% malted barley. It's bottled at 57.9% ABV and is available at the distillery, online, and select retailers for $59.99 a bottle. Luxco's Penelope Bourbon is launching a new classic series designed for everyday drinking occasions with new bourbon and rye whiskeys. They'll form the core range for Penelope, with availability in select markets starting this month and nationwide availability later this year. The bourbon is priced at $42.99 a bottle, while the rye is priced at $34.99. Wheelhorse Whiskey is launching a new limited edition rum-finished double mash whiskey. Now that sounds complicated, but it's a blend of select 5-year-old bourbon and rye barrels finished for 2 more years in 3 different types of rum casks. It is complicated. Just 2,000 bottles are available at $45 a bottle. Indiana's Hard Truth Distilling is releasing its annual barrel finish reserve double oaked sweet mashed rye. The distillery has switched its barrel entry proof to 113 proof for all new batches and proofed this year's rye down to 113 before finishing it in barrels from the West Virginia Great Barrel Company. There's a release party Thursday night at Hard Truth's Tasting Room in Indianapolis, and the whiskey will go on sale July 18th during the distillery's annual Bourbon and Barbecue Festival. And finally, Tennessee's Sweetens Cove Spirits has a new limited edition bourbon out for Father's Day. It's a blend of aged Kentucky and Tennessee bourbons finished in cuvee wine barrels and bottled at 49% ABV. Just 1,000 bottles are available at a price tag of $64.99 each. You can keep up with the latest whiskey news all week long at WhiskyCast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app. Let's open the calendar now and see what's happening around the world of whiskey. Sotheby's has its annual June whiskey auction going on now online through June 26th, and Iron Gate Auctions in Toronto starts its next spirits auction Monday, featuring a 1974 Ardbeg double barrel set. It runs through June 22nd. We have National Bourbon Week events going on all week long in Bardstown, Kentucky. The Aberdeen Whiskey Shop in Aberdeen, Scotland has a fierce beer and whiskey tasting on Friday night. Saturday is Sagamore Spirit Distillery's monthly Whiskey on the Waterfront party in Baltimore, Maryland. Next Monday, Moonshine University in Louisville has a Stave and Thief Society Executive Bourbon Steward course. The Whiskey Exchange has an English wine and whiskey tasting coming up on the 25th at its London Bridge shop in London. And the Arran Whiskey Festival kicks off June 26th and runs through the 28th in Scotland's Isle of Arran. If you're organizing a whiskey event, let us know about it. We'll add it to the calendars at WhiskyCast.com and the WhiskyCast community app.
Every year, we've been releasing a Dewar's 19-year-old Champions Edition alongside the U.S. Open, a limited release whiskey that's directly tied to the tournament. Now, 19 years is not a number you see every day on a bottle of whiskey, but in golf it kind of makes sense. The 19th hole, that round after the round. The stories usually are a little better than some folks' scorecards. This year, the championship's at Shinnecock Hills in Long Island, and instead of just putting that on the label and calling it a day, we built it into the whiskey. After 19 years of maturation, this whiskey's finished in Cabernet Franc wine casks from Wolfer Estate, right there on Long Island. So there's a real connection to the place, not just in name, but in the liquid itself. On the palate, you'll get some of that red fruit, with a bit of floral lift and a touch of spice from the higher ABV, but it still drinks like Jurors. Honeyed, soft oak, balanced, nothing is out of place. It also lands right around Father's Day, making it an easy gift. Limited release, once a year, with Shinnecock Hills on the bottle. Great for golf fans, but just really a well-made whiskey. Keep an eye out for it. Copyright 2026, Jurors is a trademark. Imported by John Dewar & Sons Company, Coral Gables, Florida. Blended Scotch whiskey, 43% alcohol by volume.
WhiskyCast In-Depth is brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey. Lost Lantern Whiskey has been working on a project for the last 5 years, sourcing straight bourbons from each of the 50 U.S. states. It's an ambitious project that has resulted in 3 new whiskeys being released this week: the United States of Bourbon 100 Proof and Cask Strength editions, along with the 1776 edition, a blend of bourbons from the original 13 states to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, with only 1,776 bottles available. I talked with Lost Lantern founders Nora Ganley-Roper and Adam Polonski this week on a Zoom call. It must have taken a lot to create a 50-state bourbon. Tell me what went into creating United States of Bourbon.
And the most time-consuming part was actually finding and vetting all the distilleries for it, because we visit every distillery that we work with in person, and early on we weren't sure if there was a bourbon from every state that would be a fit for something like this, or in some cases, even if there would be a bourbon from that state at all. So we've been buying the whiskey for this project for more than 5 years, and really in earnest over the last 2 years, starting by visiting some of the states where we really weren't sure what was out there, hunting down bourbon in North Dakota and Idaho and Hawaii, and just to make sure that there actually was bourbon out there for this. So a lot went into it on the sourcing side and then on the blending side as well.
Right. Bringing together whiskey from 50 distilleries, and it's not just 50 barrels, it's multiple barrels from some distilleries. It took a long time, an iterative process, and ultimately it's one that we're super proud of and are excited that people will get to have this bird's eye view of the industry like we've gotten working at Lost Lantern. But it was months and months of blending to do this, and sourcing many, many, many more months than that.
What was the most unusual distillery you found along the way?
That's a good question. I mean, there's so many unusual types of distilleries in it. There are 3 ghost distilleries in the blend, places that have closed entirely, so I think that's unusual in itself. And then I really love the ones that are estate distilleries, that are true farm distilleries growing all their own grain. And then there are places like ASW in Georgia, which just uses a very unusual bourbon mash bill that has chocolate malt and malted rye and malted wheat in their mash bill. And then all kinds of unique stories and climates, like bourbon from Alaska and Hawaii just obviously tastes very, very different than bourbon from Kentucky just because of the climate.
How does the bourbon from Alaska and Hawaii taste?
They're very different from each other. They're both on the younger side, but the Hawaiian climate is really interesting because it's basically the same year round. There's very little temperature swing. So it's pretty light and very balanced, but has an interesting maritime character to it, as you would expect from an island. And Alaska is also on the younger side for now because it's a younger distillery
and cool climate. So more grain driven, less oak driven. Actually played really nicely with others, which is not always the case for younger whiskey.
Tell me about the 1776 edition. It's sort of a subset of the United States of Bourbon.
Yeah, so there are three different releases. There's the 100 proof 50 states, the 100 proof or the cask strength 50 states, and then the 1776, which is a one-off edition for the 250th anniversary of the country. That's a blend of bourbon just from the first 13 states, and that is it's a special label that we've never done before. It's a black label. Every bottle is hand numbered. There are only 1776 bottles of it, and it was an interesting blend for you to put together. You said it was actually a little harder than the 50 states to blend, right?
Surprisingly, it was more difficult to make because it was from a centralized part of the country. Unlike the full 50 states where you have all of these different profiles that you're playing with, the rich depth that comes from warmer climates and the like delicate creaminess that comes from cooler climates to balance each other was easier in the United States of Bourbon, the 50 state ones. 1776 was definitely just took longer to find the ability to bring together the whiskeys in a way that would provide the full kind of range and structure of flavors that you need for a bourbon like this.
Because I can imagine that most people would assume that all bourbons taste pretty much not the same, but very similar to each other in structure.
Right. And I mean, bourbon, because it's new oak and it's corn, there are huge amounts of similarity, but climate makes such a big difference. The heat and the humidity of a place like Mississippi, which we work with a lot, those flavors are almost rum-like. There's a sweetness that doesn't exist in a cooler climate where you don't get as much of that hot heat like in the summer. And you start getting really lovely combinations of flavors when you're able to play with that. Like it was such a delight for me to be able to play with bourbon from all over, but yeah, they taste quite different. It's actually a really fun thing to do, to taste these bourbons blind next to each other because it will totally open your eyes to the range of flavors that you get from bourbon that you may not be used to if you're drinking mostly classic Kentucky style bourbon.
Who are some of the producers in this that we should be aware of?
Well, we're very excited that we were able to list all of the distilleries that are a part of it on the back label as we do for everything. So we're fully transparent, very excited that everyone let us put their name on the label, but include some of the places we've worked with many times, like Cedar Ridge in Iowa and Balcones in Texas, 888 on Nantucket in Massachusetts, along with some distilleries that we've never worked with before that I'm really excited about, like Hochatown in Oklahoma. It's a small distillery in southeast Oklahoma, which I learned when I visited is a major tourist region for that part of the country. A lot of people come to the Broken Bow area of Oklahoma. So it was really hard to get a barrel from them just because they can sell everything that they make, but they just wanted to be a part of this. We have High West in Utah.
Their own whiskey.
Their own bourbon that they distilled in Utah. A place in South Dakota called Black Fork Farms that also it's their own bourbon distilled in-house that they have not, to my knowledge, released very extensively beyond the state before, but also made from estate grain. So really quite a range of new and old Los Angeles partners.
Researching this project gives you guys a unique perspective on the craft distilling space these days. How is the health of the industry?
It's not great. I mean, we've seen the news articles out there about some of the bigger players, but the smaller players are really hurting too. It may be less of a news story in the same way, but there are so many places that just are eking out a living and just barely surviving. And we don't love saying this, but we think it'll probably get worse before it gets better. And it's hard to watch, and we hope that distilleries will make it through, but the reality is that it's really, really, really tough out there right now.
And at the same time, there are some places that are bucking that trend, like our New Mexico distillery, Safe House, is doing incredibly well down there with their craft vodka that they sell throughout New Mexico, and they're basically using that to be able to lay down more and more bourbon. And Hochatown in Oklahoma can sell everything they make right out the door. And
Frey Ranch in Nevada. Yeah. So there are bright spots. There are definitely bright spots there, which we love hearing about. Especially you do as you travel around the country.
And it's not just always the most well-known ones. Yeah. Sometimes it's a place that has a really strong regional following that those of us in the Northeast just may not have encountered before.
How do you make this an ongoing project? Because the plan is to keep this as a permanent release, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, we'll continue sourcing whiskey from current partners, and we'll also layer in new partners. One of the things that we did to ensure some level of continuity and to make sure that every time we're releasing this, there is whiskey from every state is we've done our own mini version of Solera. We put aside 4 barrels worth of the blend after we did the initial blend, and that's what I'll build off of next time, so that we're continuing to have just some of those basic flavors carry through. But it's going to be an ongoing project for both of us, where Adam will be out making sure that we have whiskey from Hawaii and Alaska and New Mexico and places where there aren't that many distilleries that we can pull from. And I'll be probably working on the blending pretty consistently throughout our time. But it's such an exciting project, and it's well worth the amount of work that went into it.
And we're excited to see how it will evolve over the next few years. Right now, this first edition, the 1776 has a 4-year age statement. It's 4 to 8 years. And the 50 state blend United States of Bourbon, 100 proof and cask strength, is a 2-year age statement. Whiskeys in it range from 2 to 10. The average is around 5 or 6, but there are a couple states that just got started later. And I'm curious how long it will take us to get it to a 5-year age statement or a 4-year age statement or even beyond that, and just have this be a whiskey that represents the state of bourbon from all across the country in one bottle, like this year as it is right now, but 5 or 10 years from now as it is at that point.
Yeah.
What did the distilleries tell you when you told them you were trying to put together a 50-state bourbon?
A lot of them said, is there really bourbon from Hawaii or Alaska? Not the distilleries in Hawaii and Alaska. The interesting thing is I started out not telling them what it was for. It's just a normal distillery visit. I was visiting them, checking them out, sourcing whiskey for our Discovery Club. And because there were some states where there's only one distillery that was making bourbon or making bourbon that fit our quality metrics for this. But I eventually found out when we went to Hawaii that some distilleries got really, really excited knowing that this is what it was for. That because we were sourcing it for a blend of bourbon from all 50 states, that was why they wanted to be a part of it and would sell us whiskey when, like our Hawaii distillery, Ko'olau, also does not make very much bourbon. They have the only bottled in bond in Hawaii and can sell everything they make out the door. So it was a trust in us and belief in this project that let them sell whiskey to us when they didn't really need to, because they wanted to be a part of it. It's truly a historic bourbon. This has never been done before, and people are excited to be the one distillery from their state that's represented in the United States of Bourbon.
Were there any distilleries that said no?
There were a few where it was just because they just didn't have bourbon that was old enough. But in some of the states that are less well known for it, we're like, we would love to, but we just can't spare it.
Because we needed this to be a blend of straight whiskey or straight bourbon whiskeys.
Yes,
so anything under 2 years couldn't play. And ultimately also it's really hard to blend really young whiskey with 10-year-old whiskey. So hitting that 2-year age statement actually made it a lot easier to play with the whiskeys together.
Yeah, we didn't really get any no's for it. I think the fact that we went out and visited all of them made a big difference when you come out to Alaska or Idaho or Oklahoma
And you say we, but it's really Adam's the one that is pounding the pavement driving. The long days of driving are all earned by him. I went on the Hawaii trip, but I can't really take credit for the rest of
why didn't you come on?
Yeah, I would have passed on the Hawaii trip, too.
Who wants to go there from Vermont in January?
Right.
How much fun was this project?
It was a lot of fun, and it was also very stressful putting all the logistics of it together. Like I had a large map of all the states and whether I had visited them and how far along the conversations were. Because we not only wanted to do this, we decided... When 2 years ago, when we decided to pursue this in earnest, we decided we wanted to release now, ahead of the 250th anniversary of the country, because it's an exciting time to launch it, just to showcase that great bourbon comes from all over. So there was a bit of a timeline around it, and that made it very challenging. A lot of different pieces to coordinate.
Yeah,
especially for you.
Yeah, and the blend. I mean, it's been the most exciting blend and also the most stressful blend because I needed to showcase that full landscape, and finding and blending a whiskey that does that is a unique challenge. It's a unique perspective, and there was a lot of pressure associated with it, but it's done. It's going to be out there. I can't change it. And so I'm delighted to have people finally tasting this after having spent years talking and working on this.
And having it be a bourbon that fits in quality-wise with the other bourbons and other whiskeys that we've done, where it's not just like we didn't do this for the sake of doing it. We did it because we thought we could create a really good and unique whiskey out of it, which I think Nora did.
The United States of Bourbon whiskeys are available through the Lost Lantern website and at their tasting room in Vergennes, Vermont, along with online sales through Sealbox and at select retailers. Thanks to Adam Polonski and Nora Ganley-Roper of Lost Lantern for joining us on this week's WhiskyCast In-Depth. It's brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey.
Our story begins in the wilds of County Wicklow, the Garden of Ireland, a place where nature moves slowly and meaningfully. Some whiskies blend in. Glendalough Double Barrel stands apart. I'm Rowdy Rooney, head distiller here at Glendalough, and I personally oversee our whiskey making process from start to finish. We do things slowly, and we do them right. We start with a smooth, single-grain Irish whiskey. We age it in flame-charred American oak for soft vanilla and a honeyed depth. Then we finish it in Oloroso casks from a small bodega in Spain. Casks we season and ship ourselves to make sure the wood is still alive with character when it arrives. That kind of care gives Glendalough Double Barrel its rich layers of dried fruit, warm spice, and signature smoothness. This is a whiskey at its own pace, and it's worth every second. This is Glendalough Double Barrel, crafted to stand apart.
This week's tasting notes are brought to you by Lost Lantern Whiskey, and yes, I recognize the inherent conflict of interest in reviewing whiskeys from a sponsor, but these whiskeys are worth sharing with you. Let's start with the United States of Bourbon 100 proof, bottled at 50% ABV. The nose has touches of honey, caramel, butterscotch, soft spices, and sweet oak. The taste has cinnamon, black pepper, and allspice notes, balanced by honey, dried fruits, and caramel, while the finish is long and dry with lingering spices. I'm scoring the 100 proof version a 92. Now, the cask strength version is bottled at 61.5% ABV, and it's the exact same blend as the 100 proof. The nose is identical to the 100 proof, and there are the same spicy notes of cinnamon, black pepper, and allspice on the palate, but in this case they're balanced by tree fruits, honey, butterscotch, and caramel. The finish is long and warm with lingering spices. I prefer it to the 100 proof, and I'm scoring the cask strength version a 94. As we heard during our interview with Nora and Adam, the United States of Bourbon 1776 edition is a blend of bourbons from the original 13 states. It's bottled at 60.7% ABV, and the nose is warm and aromatic with a hint of spice and touches of honey, caramel, and leather. The taste has a creamy and smooth mouthfeel with a slow onset of black pepper and chili powder spices, complemented by honey, caramel, and pipe tobacco. The finish is long and dry with lingering spices. I'm scoring the United States of Bourbon 1776 edition a 93. Moving on now, I mentioned the Lady Luck Irish Whiskey last month in the news and received a sample recently. It's bottled at 40% ABV, and the nose has touches of ginger and citrus fruits with soft spices, honey, and vanilla. The taste has a nice balance of ginger, white pepper, honey, and citrus fruits, and the finish has lingering white pepper spice and a touch of ginger. I think it would work nicely in a cocktail, and I'm scoring Lady Luck Irish Whiskey a 90. Finally, let's look at the Bruichladdich Yellow Submarine 3. It's a mix of 25% first fill ex-bourbon barrels and 75% first and second fill French red wine casks, and it's bottled at 54.2% ABV. The nose has touches of red grapes, fresh berries, tree fruits, and gentle spices. The taste is fruity and peppery with fresh berries and tree fruits, a slow onset of white pepper, raisins, and a hint of oak. The finish is long and juicy with berries, tree fruits, and a lingering spiciness. I'm scoring the Bruichladdich Yellow Submarine 3 a 95. This week's tasting notes are brought to you by Lost Lantern Whiskey. Serious about whiskey? Lost Lantern is too. Two whiskey nerds built Lost Lantern as a curator, not a distiller, tracking down distinctive casks from standout American producers. Think of Lost Lantern as an adventure in discovering the best American whiskey. Each bottle exploring a new distillery, a new story. It's proof that not all who wander are lost. Discover the whiskey producers you should know about with Lost Lantern, shining a light on the independent spirit. Let's open up the inbox now and see what people are talking about this week in the WhiskyCast community app. Lots of comments on last week's story about the arrest of a Kentucky man accused of scamming Facebook whiskey buyers by sending them boxes filled with apple juice and water. Canuck Sloth suggested maybe us whiskey fans should stop calling whiskey juice. I agree with that. Another pun from Ian Bruce in Australia. Seems these duped buyers needed to be more concentrated on the juice. Not sure if it's ever linked or not, but seeing frequent posts of people selling empty bottles and packaging always gives scammers a chance to refill old bottles. Oh, it's linked all right. Never sell your empty bottles on Facebook, eBay, or the like. It just feeds the scammers out there. Triple H said friends don't let friends buy whiskey online, and the response from Forestial, or subscribe to Facebook. We had some comments on last week's interview with Joyce Nethery of Jephthah Creed Distillery in Kentucky. The Tracer Bullet said, so a few years ago I visited Jephthah Creed and had a great time. The staff were wonderful. And Matt replied, I also loved visiting Jephthah Creed. It was one of the more memorable stops for my several trips to Kentucky. Thanks for all of the comments. If you have something you'd like to share, whether it's your latest World Cup dram, a comment, question, or a suggestion, download the free WhiskyCast community app from your app store and jump right in. You can also find us on social media. Look for WhiskyCast on X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. Our email address is comments@whiskycast.com. Let's close out the show now with Behind the Label, our look at the history, science, and people who make whiskey unique. We know about the reactions between copper in the stills and sulfur-containing compounds in the spirit that slowly eats away at the copper in the stills over time. Now researchers at the University of Strathclyde in Scotland have discovered a way to harness those reactions to make microscopic particles move through liquid. In their research, the swimmers are tiny copper-based particles, and the liquid contains sulfur compounds. They found that a group of water-soluble sulfur compounds often found in whiskey successfully powered the copper particles. The work may open up new possibilities for designing microscopic self-propelled systems. Think of that the next time someone tells you whiskey isn't good for anything. If you have something you'd like us to look at on an upcoming episode, just get in touch with us. That's all for this week's WhiskyCast. You'll find links for the stories in this episode in our show notes at whiskycast.com. That's also where you'll find the calendar of events, my tasting notes, and a complete archive of past episodes going all the way back to 2005. Don't forget to leave a review or comment in your favorite podcast app, and be sure to hit the like button. That helps other whiskey lovers discover the show. We'd love to hear from you. Look for WhiskyCast on all of the major social media apps. Our email address is comments@whiskycast.com.
Our latest release of Dewar's 19-year-old Champions Edition, finished in Cabernet Franc wine casks, made for the 19th hole, and one worth having around when you get there. Keep an eye out for it. Cheers, friends.
WhiskyCast is a production of Cask Strength Media, copyright 2026, and comes to you each week from the charming, yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'm Mark Gillespie, reminding you that when you drink, please drink responsibly. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.